Yeah, another week, and
Yeah,
which is
it.
great. Back here, and you know what? We're so happy with. It's great getting feedback from everybody, and we've certainly been having some incredible guests, and talk about excitement
Over 3
building
years.
over 3 years. But as we know, we're about inspiration, and today we're super excited.
Yeah,
because
we
we have
are.
really got the icon and the queen of inspiration. Is in Australia and really globally, but
And look, honestly, Nicola, magazines were back in the day of magazines, in the heyday of magazines. To me, it was like I was informed, even though I come from a large family with 5 sisters and 3 brothers.
you get some info
and we'd
from
all
them.
yak and share things. But a magazine was like gospel to me. I turned the pages, I've got to get that red dress. Oh, it looks great. Or particularly with something like a Cleo magazine, I was like, growing up a good Catholic girl, wow, exploring all these avenues that I was out of touch with. And the person we're about to interview, Ita Buttrose, honestly, I'd have to say was at the forefront of exploring so many taboo subjects that she landed, and unabashedly just so full of energy. And she was always determined, this spirit that was so alive no matter what was thrown at her. If you want inspiration, listen to this interview.
Absolutely, the queen of it. And it's
Mind
really,
you, we haven't started
to
the
me,
interview.
I know, part of my whole growing up is with, someone said, Ita Buttrose. So I think we won't keep you waiting any longer, because we could still talk. And I agree with magazines too. It was my favourite thing, especially from school days, flicking through those magazines, especially Cleo. But let me introduce you to Ita Buttrose, and we really are truly honoured to have you here, Ita, at our back fence, who's an absolute Aussie treasure, a role model, Australian of the Year 2013, proud mum of 2, grandma of 5, and at 83 she's done and just about won it all. She holds the highest national honour, Companion of the Order of Australia, along with a OBE, 3 honorary doctorates, a place in the Australian Media Hall of Fame, and the Outstanding Lifetime Achievement for Excellence in Journalism. And at just 23, Ita became editor of the Sunday Telegraph, Daily Telegraph. At 30, she launched Cleo magazine in 1972, which you were just talking about, Di, and that was really breaking boundaries, including the first nude centrefolds. And I think I had read Simons from Skyhooks, and I was young. I think, as my mum got the magazine for me. At 33, Ita was the youngest ever editor of the Australian Women's Weekly, which is like the Bible, and served as chair of the ABC. She's inspired Cold Chisel's hit song Ita, which I was singing coming in the car on the way to the studio, was portrayed in TV series Paper Giants, and even has her own Mattel doll. A passionate advocate for dementia awareness, brain health, HIV education and macular eye disease, Ita continues to use her voice to make a real and lasting difference. She's now sharing her story in her new memoir, Unapologetic Ita, Unapologetically Ita, and we loved it. You listened to it on audio. I read it, which is like the reverse for us. So we loved it, highly recommend it. Welcome, Ita, to the back fence.
Thank you very much.
We're
Nice to be
thrilled
with
to
you.
have you here.
Like, we do intros for a lot of different guests. That one was extra long because you couldn't do an introduction without follow it from woe to go.
No.
Because there is so much to you. There's so many places and so many ways we can start this interview, but I want to start by saying that you and I share a few things together. One, we're both Capricorns.
Ooh, watch out.
Love being a Capricorn female. We both have been neighbours of Peter Weir. We both have 3 brothers, and our fathers both passed away of various forms of dementia. So there was so many parts of the book that I empathised and could relate to parts of your life. Obviously not the awards, but just, I just feel, there's something about a Capricorn woman is very determined And on that note, I want to start by saying you earlier on had, which very few people do have, you had two choices. One, you wanted to be an opera singer, and two would have been to be a journalist. And it was fascinating. Of course, you were so close and admired your daddy your father. And, of course, he was a journalist and an editor. Naturally, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So you chose the journalistic road. Tell us about that and how that all came about.
Well, as you said, I followed my father's footsteps. He was a journalist, editor and author too. And all my parents' friends were artists and photographers and journalists. And I used to think they had a great time at my parents' dinner parties. And they always had a view. They were well informed. You know, they knew things about the world. And I used to look at them and think, these people know how to live. And so I also liked writing. And so it was very easy for me to choose journalism. But the opera singer, I did want to be an opera singer. But when I did the vocational guidance test at school, as one did when one was 14 or 15, something like that, they didn't refer to my number one opera singer. They didn't even discuss it. They just went to number two, which was journalism, and they said, yes, you'd make a good journalist. So culture wasn't highly regarded when I was a youngster. Anyway, that's the way it goes. I think if I'd really wanted to be an opera singer, I'd have been an opera singer. But I really wanted to be a journalist, and that's what I became. And I got my first
Good
job
choice.
on the Australian Women's Weekly when I was 15.
She was a singer as well. You know, like I don't know if she missed that one out. You didn't say you were a singer.
So you started when you were 15.
So tell us about those early days.
Well,
how did you
women's
start?
education,
what did you do?
I ran messages and I made tea and coffee for 40 people in the morning and the afternoon. And, you know, they had a switchboard, sort of a switchboard. It was a bit like Downton Abbey. It was one of those things when the people pressed it, the flap would come down and it'd say editor's office. And you rush off to see what the editor wanted. And she'd want you to take some copy to the composing room or something like that. And it was very different from today's world. It was just the last remnants, I think, of the way we were, and then we were beginning to change. And I loved it, but I'd done shorthand and typing when I left school, and they soon discovered on Weekly that I could type. So the next thing you know, I moved out of the copy girl's desk, and I'm typing medical articles and things that they were going to condense into the Weekly. And then I heard that the secretary on the women's editor of the Daily and Sunday Telegraphs, which were all owned by Sir Frank Packer, the two Telegraphs and the Women's Weekly, and they were all in the one building. I heard that her secretary was leaving, and because I had shorthand and typing, I thought, well, I could apply. So I applied and I got that job. But my goal was to get my journalism cadetship, and I thought that if I was working for the women's editor, I'd be closer to my goal. And I was right. I used to come in on weekends without pay. I used to submit paragraphs for publication. I think I drove them mad with my enthusiasm. And so I got my cadetship when I was only 16.
Well, that is young. Gee, you've been
young.
a groundbreaker in every single way, Ita. Yeah.
I think I'm determined.
That's the word.
Absolutely.
That's the word.
Focused.
I love that.
And then, tell us, so you went sort of jumped up. I mean, I know the years go on, but you're only 23. Is that correct when you were editor?
No, I was women's editor when I was 23.
Women's editor. That's amazing. At 23. Yeah. And so you didn't have any role models, or were there any other women? Were you the first woman to hold that position?
No, I didn't. And all my mentors were men, because there were no women at my level. But it just seemed like a natural fit to me. And I loved being in charge, and I loved creating the pages. And you used to do your own layouts then, and you'd size up the photographs, and which I could do. it was long before the artist sort of took over a lot of the work that we used to do. Things changed again, that just changed again. And then I changed what we covered in the women's pages too. I tried to make it a little more newsy, always looking for change.
Incredible. Honestly, it's there's so many ways I can keep talking.
I know, we're just loving
going. Yeah. So, and I think the thing that intrigues me most is because I was so fascinated by Cleo. Can you talk about how Cleo came about? How did the formula come about? Cleo magazine.
We were supposed to be doing the Australian edition of Cosmopolitan, and Sir Frank had called me down and said that he wanted to make me the editor of the Australian version of Cosmopolitan. Do you think you can do it? He said. And I said, yes, Sir Frank. Yes, Sir Frank. Yeah, you say, yes, Sir Frank.
Y-E-S.
Then you go outside. Yes. You go outside and you think, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? And then you think, well, I can do this. I can do this. So at the same time, coincidentally, he sold the newspapers, the two Telegraphs, the Daily and the Sunday, to Rupert Murdoch. And I was told to keep back the staff that I wanted for the Australian version of Cosmopolitan. So I told staff what we were doing, and I kept them back. And we were up on the 11th floor, and the building emptied because everybody went down to News Limited. And so we were in this empty building, really, and it was so cold. That's what I remember. There was nobody in there. And so we whiled away our time by designing new magazines. Then at the last moment, Hearst Publications, an American company, decided they weren't going to do the Australian version of Cosmopolitan with us. They were going to do it with our rivals. Oh. And Sir Frank and Kerry Packer were not amused, I can tell you. So Kerry calls me down, tells me the bad news, and I'm thinking, how am I going to tell them? How am I going to tell the troops that we haven't got a magazine? And he said, what have you been doing up there? He was really cranky. And I said, we've been designing magazines, Kerry. Well, bring them down. I want to have a look at them. We called one of them Cleopatra. And inside we had Cleo books, Cleo music, Cleo films, all of that sort of thing. We chose Cleopatra because we thought she was a confident woman who knew what she wanted, and that sort of summed up the Cleo woman. And so Kerry's looking through this mock-up of this magazine, and we put lots of cartoons in it. I always thought magazines should give people a laugh. So he's going through it, and he's going, he really liked the jokes. So he got to the end of it, and he said, this is it. We'll do this one. And I wanted out 6 months ahead of Cosmo. So that's how Cleo began. It was quite by chance, really. And so I go upstairs and I tell the troops, you'll never believe what we're going to be doing. But we all loved it. And when we met up again, because the ABC did that film, that mini-series on the birth of Cleo.
Yes. Paper Giants.
Yes, that's right. Paper Giants, the birth of Cleo.
Yes.
We agreed that we all knew we were doing something special, but it's only when you look back that you realise how special Cleo was and all the areas in which we broke news or broke information.
Who was your favourite centrefold, Nicola?
Mine was actually Red Simon's. I know Jack Thompson, I believe, was the first, and I think he was probably one of the most famous. But I was a young girl in my 70s, Ita. I was at primary school, and so my mum.
You said in your 70s.
It was in the 70s, like 1970s, and so I was in primary school, and I had my first crush on the band Skyhooks, and that was like living in the 70s. And then you chose. They were one of the ones to be on the cover, and so I remember getting my mum to buy me the magazine, and I think it was my very first poster on the wall was like a nude of and they're all in a tree, the Skyhooks.
Who was your favourite, Ita? Who was your favourite?
Oh, Jack Thompson, without a doubt.
Oh, there you go.
So you share everything.
It was so hard to get men to pose. They'd say, "Well, I make centrefold material," and you say, "Yes, you would." When can we photograph you? And they'd run a mile They'd run a mile. We were despairing of ever finding anybody. And then Julie Clark, one of the youngest members of our staff, had the idea of Jack Thompson. And Jack approved of nudity. He wasn't embarrassed about being nude. So he agreed to become the Cleo centrefold. But on the morning of the shoot, which was going to be at the beach somewhere, the two guys, the photographer, VJ, and the art director, Andrew, Jack doesn't turn up. So they go to Jack's house, knowing that I will kill them if they come back without a So they go to Jack's house, and Jack is hungover. He's in no fit state to leave the lounge on which he's reclining. No fit state at all. So the boys say, well, look, we'll just go and have a coffee, and we'll come back in half an hour or something. So they go off to have a coffee, and the coffee shop was next door to an art shop. So Andrew goes in there, and he's looking through an art book, and he comes across the pose of Venus reclining on the couch. And he thinks, that's what we could do with Jack. He doesn't have to move. We can leave him on the couch where he is.
Oh, that's
brilliant. And so that's how the centrefold came about.
I love the behind the scenes. He was hungover. That's
don't
even.
You love it?
And look, it's also that was this like with the 70s. That was really Ita. I mean, that was an absolute time of change and feminism and sex and for women
Rock
going
and roll.
on the pill and all those things there, and for women to actually have a voice and be listened. And it was a really exciting time.
Women didn't have a voice. I beg your pardon, but they didn't have a voice.
Yeah,
Cleo gave them a voice. And the pill, the pill
that's actually true.
had a 27.5% luxury tax on it, which Gough Whitlam removed when he became Prime Minister back in the time, coincidentally, when we launched Cleo. And Gough Whitlam removed that luxury tax, and so the pill became $1 a month or something like that. And doctors didn't make it available to single women. They only gave it to married women. So married women would hand their script over to their single friends and then go back to the doctor and say, I'm sorry, I've lost my prescription. I mean, can you imagine that male doctors, refuse to give single women in Australia the pill?
Yeah, look, thank goodness we've come a long, long way from there.
You know what affected me the most was when Ita said in the book, in fact, I repeated it this morning with a few women who were almost a bit teary. And the beauty of this book for me was a recognition of how far we have come as women. But I want to repeat this. Ita Buttrose was the editor of the Women's Weekly. She was one of the highest paid women in this country, and she couldn't get I get so mad. She couldn't get a home loan. She couldn't get a department store card without her husband's signature or her husband's approval. I mean,
any male signature, preferably your husband, but any male. You have to have a man to guarantee you.
Wow.
And I mean, it's a reminder.
It is a reminder because we've actually now Ita got a monthly one called Over the Money Fence, and it's literally about women now finally sort of coming to terms, taking responsibility of going, we do need to know about money, we do need to finance money ourselves, because even people was a little bit younger than you, Ita, still, and even in our generation, were sort of like fearful, a little bit slow to behind it. So let alone the opportunities from how it was, and you've changed and made such a difference. So and so thank you, because we're still continuing and going along. We still need to go a long way further as well.
Yes, we haven't won all the battles yet.
No.
Well said.
But I've got to say, when you're sort of saying, so you married also, I just love this in the book, that you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but did your dad, who you was sort of saying who you looked up to and admired, did he say to your husband just before you're going to get married, look, just giving you a bit of warning, you are marrying a very independent woman here?
Yes, he did. He told Alistair that he was marrying a very independent woman. And I suppose I was, and I suppose I still am.
Yeah, and hallelujah for that.
Yeah.
Look,
and on that note, someone asked me, I was driving in, a girlfriend of mine rang me and said, could you please ask Ita this question? And I love the question. It was, you were ahead of your time. You were very young. You had children. You were very well known, and you were editor of magazines. Did you get any flack from women in those days? Because you were setting a precedent for women. You were on your own out there, really?
Yes, middle-aged women would say things like, "And who's looking after your children tonight?" You know, they would rub it in because a working mother was very, very rare in those days. You know, but I spent all my money on care for my children, actually. Well, I only had one when I started Cleo. And then Ben came along and coincided with the launch of Cleo, which the Packers thought was pretty sloppy of me. And Kerry actually rang me and said that he and the old man didn't think I'd read well enough one of the articles in the first issue of Cleo, "How much do you know about contraception?" Now, you see, you wouldn't be able to have that conversation today because it would be politically incorrect.
Yes,
So I think a lot of fun has gone out of the office place, and the communication between men and women doesn't really exist.
No. So fun, F-U-N, that's our motto. Let's be honest, fun. Interesting to hear you say that fun's gone AY. Can I bring it back to Kerry? Kerry Packer had a house near my family's home, and I taught him how to windsurf at one stage. And, oh, God, I used to laugh. Funniest guy. He would have been fun, even though he was firm. He must have been fun to work with.
He was fun, and everybody liked him. He was curious. He was very curious about what we were doing in Cleo. He didn't really know this progressive woman that we said Cleo was for, but he was getting to know her through us. He used to come and visit the fashion department because both Packer men, Sir Frank and Kerry, had very set ideas about women's dress, and they were conservative. Sir Frank really liked you to wear twin sets and a skirt. You know, and Kerry was not twin sets, but he was more of the conservative type. And we had a fantastic fashion editor called Rosina O'Casey, who unfortunately has died of breast cancer since then. But Rosina was larger than life. And she was a damn good fashion editor. So she would have clothes hanging in her office on racks and so on. And Kerry would come in and he'd point to some bright garment and he'd say, Do you really think women will wear that? And she'd say, yeah, I do, Mr. Packer. But will they like it? Of course they will, Mr. Packer. And he was always quizzing her and always borrowing her cigarettes because he chain smoked. And Rosina was a pretty heavy smoker too. And in those days, you could still smoke in the office. And he'd be always borrowing a cigarette from Rosina. And finally I had to say to him, Kerry, cigarettes are expensive, and you keep smoking Rosinas. You need to give us a few packets. So he sent her up a case of cigarettes.
Oh, look, see, that's good. You've always been sort of like on the lookout, and especially sort of like to help and support women. And obviously you've got that sort of like that way that you can communicate so well with the boys, because I think some women could have felt intimidated back then. Was that part of, you grew up with four brothers, or where did you, or three brothers, I should say, four of you, three brothers, three brothers. Yeah. And was that part of how you got that inner confidence, or tell us where did that come from?
I think whatever the boys did, I did. If I could beat them at anything, I would try my darndest.
Well, only girl, yeah.
I mean, we played cowboys and Indians down in the park, and I was always the Indian, which meant I had to be captured. I think that was unfair, but that's the way it was. If you were a girl, you were the Indian, and you were captured. But I do think the boys taught me how to be competitive. I think it's a plus to grow up with boys.
Speaking of competitive, working with two remarkable men, Rupert Murdoch and Kerry Packer, the guys that had big dreams, in what way would you say that they both influenced you in your career?
Well, absolutely, because they both think big. When Rupert's still alive, so he's still thinking big. But they were big guys and they had big dreams, and I think that certainly rubbed off on me. I've always thought big, and I'm more I'm direct like they are, they were, they are, and I'm not frightened to dream a dream and have a go at getting it.
Oh, that's I love that so much.
That's your
Actually,
saying.
I've
You
got.
love that.
Oh yeah, I always say you do what you love what you do, Ita. But I've actually got I've written that quote down of you're going. No one dreams your dreams. They are yours alone, so don't be afraid to go after them.
I love that.
You know, and I
That's
just
true.
love that so much. You know, everything about this book. I'm not kidding. For whether you're younger, my daughter's 30. She's a journalist. She'll be reading a copy of this. This is for everybody, young people, older people, for everyone. It's interesting, most incredible, remarkable story, Ita. But it's so positive and inspirational. And like, you know, even your chapter title, I love it. The first one. Never give up. I mean, really, because, you know, and so what can you tell our listeners here? Because we all sometimes feel like giving up, you know, it doesn't work or it's a bit too hard or I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Well, you can't give up.
tips.
If you want to be a winner, if you want to be successful, you never give up. I mean, of course, you're going to encounter some detours, and yes, it's not easy sometimes to achieve your ambition. And you encounter obstacles. I look at obstacles and I think, obstacles. There must be a way around this. I'll have to work it out. And I work it out and then I go around it. I just think we're all entitled to go for our goals and our dreams, and we shouldn't let anyone stop us. And if we think that we should give up when the going gets tough, you're never going to achieve them anyway. You just got to keep persevering. Never give up.
What do you say? Tough times don't last. Tough people do. You know,
That's true.
So
That's so true.
Yeah,
that's a great life motto, isn't it?
It really is.
In so many ways. Well, we can't let you go without saying, Scotty Morrison. Gosh, my God, what a big call! Appointed you chair of the ABC. That's a huge accolade. How was that for you over those 5-year period?
Challenging. The ABC is a national broadcaster. It's listened to by thousands of Australians, and everybody has a view about it because it's in your home, and it's very much a part of our lives, isn't it? We grow up with the ABC, and so I was always amazed at some of the politicians who clearly don't approve of the ABC. You know, there are calls to privatise it. Calls to shut it down altogether. But those countries that have well-funded public broadcasters have better democracies than those countries that don't. And so it's essential that we foster national broadcasting because it's without commercial influence and it's without government interference. So you get the news with no interference from anyone, except sometimes the journalists who are putting it together. But it's independent of commercial and government interest, and that's very important. And British research, and every research that I've read, tells me that those countries that have well-funded national broadcasters have better democracies. And that's why we should strive to maintain the ABC and ignore the voices that would have shut down.
Here for that, and then also,
absolutely.
Di, when you were saying that too, did Scott Morrison, is that correct that you had just been awarded one Australian of the Year and then you get called into an office? To tell us that one. What happened there, Ita?
No, I hadn't. I hadn't just been awarded the Australian of the Year. I was Australian of the Year in 2013, and when you're Australian of the Year, you get invited to all the other Australian of the Year awards. You become a member of the Australian of the Year family. So I was there in 2019 at the awards with my son and my daughter-in-law. And the awards had been given, and we were out on the deck having a drink and a nibble when a bloke came through the gloom and said, "Are you Ita Buttrose?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "The Prime Minister wants to see you." So I put down my wine glass and I said, "Okay, lead on." So he led me to a room where the Prime Minister was, and there were people in the room, and they were all cleared out. And I'm thinking, what? I must have done something wrong. I mean, I'm thinking, why am I in here? Yes, I'm thinking, what have I done? What have I done? I'm sort of thinking, what have I done? So the Prime Minister, Mr. Morrison, we exchanged pleasantries, and then he just got to the point. He wanted me to become chair of the ABC. And I said, oh, Prime Minister, you've taken my breath away. No need to reply now, he said. What's your mobile? Ring me in a couple of days. So I could hear my phone pinging as he sent me his mobile. So I left the awards with the Prime Minister's mobile and a job offer, and I never expected either.
Oh, that's incredible.
That's incredible,
it's huge.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's and those 5 years, I mean, challenging was your first word when I asked the question. Try and break down some of those challenges for us. Like, in what respect?
Say that again?
The challenges when you were chair of the ABC. Try and break down some of those challenges. Like, you mentioned the word, it was challenging. Like, in what way?
Well, everybody has a viewpoint. So I was amazed at how political the ABC was. I knew it was, but I didn't realise that the government had barely a good word to say for us. And they didn't. I mean, the Conservative government was in office at the time, and there are many in that section of government who are critical of the ABC. They think it favours one side over the other. You know, they've always got a beef about us, and they were very critical of us. And I was appalled that nobody had a good word to say, or it seems that no one in government at that time had a good word to say about the national broadcaster. Even with our emergency broadcasting, where we save lives, when we prevent people from being devoured by bushfires, or we help them endure floods, all those things the ABC do. And they do it extremely well. I mean, Australians would be lost without the ABC and their emergency broadcasting. But it was very easy to upset people. Programs that we had approved were criticised by the government. You know, they didn't really like much of anything we were doing. And
it must
again,
have been tough.
It was challenging.
Challenging.
I mean, you don't expect these jobs to be easy. You know, they're big jobs. The ABC is a big organisation. We've got more than 4,500 employees. You know, we go right around Australia. There's nothing quite like us anywhere else in Australia. We're fulfilling the role of commercial media as they withdraw out of the regions and out of the country areas, and we're providing more news now in regional Australia. And that's the role of the national broadcaster, to fill the gaps sometimes.
Well done, Ita.
Yeah, well done, Ita. And certainly with TV too, you've done different things too, and you've shown also another side with your personality, and we can sort of see it, you know, oozing through right now too. And, you know, your sense of humour, and you were did you host the Studio 10 show as well, you know, which was a bit of a talkback, more of an entertainment. How did you like that?
I loved it. There were 4 of us to begin with. There was Sarah Harris, Joe Hildebrand, Jessica Rowe, and me. And they tested us all to see if we had chemistry. And Joe and I were tested first to see if we had chemistry. And I had to hand him a red rose. And we felt like such twits. There we are, sort of trying to prove that we've got chemistry. And I'm saying, this is for you, Joe. And he'd say, thank you, Ita. Anyway, we did all have chemistry. It took us a long time to find the 4th person. And Jess one day came in for an audition. And we all thought, yes, she's the one. And yes, there was chemistry. And so that's how we four of us all ended up together. And we had a lot of fun on that program. We got away with blue murder, really. We got up to all sorts of mischief. It was very carefree. And there was nothing we couldn't do. Yeah, we missed
that.
I think,
on TV.
I think we missed it. Yeah.
It's all, I mean, seriously, Ita, you've tackled all corners of media, including television, as Nick was just mentioning. There's another side that I love about you giving back to the community with various charities, one that's dear to your heart, because I know you're beautiful Daddy Do passed away from vascular dementia. My father passed away from Alzheimer's. My sister has Alzheimer's presently. You're the patron of Dementia Australia. Where are we at? I mean, I did hear, if I'm correct, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that this week I heard that it's the number one killer of both men and women. Is that true?
Yes, it is. It passed heart disease as the number one killer of all Australians several months ago.
That this week too, yeah.
You know, most of us know someone with dementia. If it's not in our family, it's a neighbour or it's a work colleague or something like that. It's very prevalent. And
My father did too.
Unless we get a medical breakthrough of some kind, well, the figures will double to more than 1 million. There's 433,000 Australians at the moment living with dementia. But there is hope at last, because some new drugs have been released, lecanemab and donanemab. And while they have serious influences over people, which means they have to be monitored, they are the first indication that we might be on the right track, and there's more to be done, because they do delay the progress of dementia, and that's a big breakthrough. So knowing that we're on the right track will encourage more researchers to fine-tune the medicines, and hopefully we'll get something that people can use without the serious side effects. And they are serious. It can cause brain bleeding, so that's why you have to be monitored. Well, but it's encouraging. And we do know that vascular dementia is preventable, because we now know that this is a lifestyle dementia. So if you watch your blood sugar, you watch your cholesterol, you exercise, the brain needs physical exercise, you need to mentally challenge it, you mustn't isolate yourself, you should check your hearing, you should check your kidneys, because that's a risk factor. We now know that if people can modify their behaviour, that we can reduce their risk of vascular dementia. Well, all dementias really, but vascular dementia, the researchers at the Centre for Healthy Brain Ageing, they believe could be preventable.
Well,
that's so good to hear, because I was just going to say, what are some of the tips? Because you've actually got a whole chapter in your book on the brain and the importance of it, and that's a really positive thing. My dad had Lewy body dementia, and at the time they didn't know it until once he had passed away, he donated his brain to science, and that's when we found out, because that was many years ago, and the developments are continuing on, which is really great. But I love hearing that we can all sort of take some sort of responsibility in our own life of trying to prevent at least vascular dementia.
Yes, well, you've got to watch your diet. You should watch your weight. Obesity is a risk factor. So there are things that we can all do. We can all watch our cholesterol, can't we? Because we know don't eat cheese. That's what I always remember about cholesterol. But you don't eat creams and things like that. But these are things you've got to take responsibility for your health, and you've got to take responsibility for your brain, and your brain should be protected from the day you're born. And I think it's important that children grow up knowing how to look after their brain. If they do, if we can teach children how to look after their brain, then they'll grow into adults who know the way to protect the brain, and that includes football, and that includes boxing. Your head is not meant to be hit around. It can cause brain damage.
They're finally coming to be aware of that now. Like that.
Did you see the miniseries Plum? Did you see that series?
I heard of that,
It was relative to that. And my brother Colin Scott, who was an NFL player, American football, he's donated his brain to science. But it's all about the CEI, which is relative to, getting knocked out. My other brother was knocked out, I think, about 6 times. It's pretty frightening. But then other people turn around and go, oh, you're all wusses, What, we're not allowed to play sport? Now, yes, everyone must play sport, but when it comes to concussion, we just have to be a little bit more conscious around that.
Now there's like
Absolutely
awareness. Yeah.
I love how you also talk a lot about aged care homes. Like we interviewed Maggie Beer recently, and it was about she's got involved with changing the food in aged care homes in a huge way. Bless her. I mean, we're talking about dementia. A lot of people end up in aged care homes. I really want to honour you for keeping your father at home with his vascular dementia. That would not have been easy, but there are always alternatives.
It wasn't.
So, yeah.
It wasn't easy, and he I'd sometimes go over and he'd say to me, "Oh, those people across the road, they made a terrible noise last night. I went out and I gave them a piece of my mind." And I think, I hope he didn't. I really hope he didn't. But he did want to stay at home. But we got worried, the boys and I, that perhaps we weren't giving Dad the right sort of care. So I arranged for ACAT to come and review the case. And I told Dad that someone was coming over, a friend was coming over for coffee. So the ACAT lady arrived and we were sitting in the lounge room, we were having coffee. And I called out to Dad to join us. And in he came, and he had his best blazer on. He had a tie, shirt, pants. And he sat down and very, very politely took his coffee and listened to us talking. And then he looked at the ACAT lady and he said, "You know, some people would have us old people put away somewhere and only come out when they ring a cowbell." So he knew what I was up to. He's you know, don't think that just because they've got dementia that they don't know what you're up to. We got 10 out of 10 for our care for Dad, and so we kept him home.
Ita, also you're involved with macular eye disease. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Can tell us a bit about
I'm
that.
patron of the Macular Disease Foundation. Well, that's because my father had macular degeneration. It's quite a mouthful to say.
It is.
And it's highly hereditary. And so if it's in your family, you have a 50% chance of getting it. So I get my macula checked every year, and I know that I don't have the disease. My eye specialist has said, "There's no sign of it. It's missed you. But Dad lost his central vision, and the central vision is what we use for images, driving, needlework, fine work with the eye. He couldn't read the newspapers any longer. And, of course, he always started his day with newspapers because he was a journalist. So it was very difficult.
And where are we at with that too? With progression of, you're sort of saying hallelujah with dementia, there's breakthroughs.
The sight-saving eye injections for wet, there's two forms of macular degeneration. There's wet and dry. So for the wet, we've had an injection in place for some years now. And my uncle, my dad's youngest brother, who's 102, I might say, he's had more than 100. He's got macular degeneration. See, it runs in the family. Yeah. And he's had more than 150 injections into his eyes. But his sight has been saved. He can still read the Sydney Morning Herald, something that gives him great pleasure. And these weren't around. This discovery wasn't around when Dad was diagnosed. And now there's been a breakthrough with the dry form of macular degeneration. There is a new drug, but it's early days yet.
Good, that's positive.
Good. There's breakthroughs
it's
coming
positive.
Through. Yes. Hallelujah. Hallelujah for that.
We can't let this interview go without chapter 6.
Oh, sex and the older woman is an older person.
I love chapter 6. I love chapter 6 because sex and the older woman, the older person, and older people, shall I say, in this book, it's actually really fascinating because, again, I think in our world today with people living longer and it's all about it's a whole new beginning post-menopause, I think people have this misconception that you're older, there is no way you'd be having sex, other than really what you bring to the fore in this chapter. I actually love it, Ida. It's very uplifting, positive. You can have sex for as long as you want. And you even talk about this woman who wrote a book called Naked at Our Age, and her name is Joan Price, and she talks about there's no expiration date for sexual pleasure. How brilliant is that?
Well, it
Bravo.
needs to be said sometimes. It needs to be said sometimes because families, if you've got an older person in aged care, for instance, families often think mum and dad shouldn't be looking for a new partner. Say they're widowed. They don't need to have sex. Garbage. It's only young people think older people lose their sexual urges. It doesn't go away. You're still a person for the most part. I mean, there's some people who say they never get a sexual urge, but most of us do. And most of us want to have a relationship with someone. It's company, it's fun, and we need to talk about it more. And families shouldn't inflict their views on their poor parents or their parents' friends. Sometimes with dementia, a person will go into care and they might form a relationship with someone else who has dementia, also in care. And this is very hard for the person at home watching this person that they love having another relationship. But you realize they don't know what they're doing. I mean, it's just following a natural urge to have a relationship with somebody. It makes the world go round.
Oh, it does, and you really are. It's great, as you said, it is important to talk about it at all different ages. And I like it also when you're sort of with age, how younger people think older people do. But everything's all relative. Like, remember that I think I saw you on a TV program. It was from years ago, and they're showing you, Ita, when it was a younger journalist was talking to you and sort of saying, "Do you feel old?" And you said no, and then she said, well, you are like old, and then you just sort of said, well, how old are you? Like you're old in someone else's eyes.
That annoyed me, that interview.
Yeah, but I just thought it was fantastic.
But she actually said, I know I'm not old.
Oh,
and she was 30-something. Yes. And I said, someone 18 might think you're very old indeed.
Yes.
She was really offensive.
Great comeback.
Don't you feel old? No, I don't. But you are old. You're middle-aged. And, she was very aggressive.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, if I was old then, what the hell am I now?
Well, you're my poster girl. I tell you what. That's and the way also. Are there tips because you are so sharp and talk about with your brain? Is it because you keep on learning? You just keep on, using your brain as well because you really are. It's just fantastic.
Well, I'm certainly still using my brain, and you've got to use your brain. You've got to challenge it with things it doesn't know. That's what the brain likes. It needs to have things it doesn't know. It needs to. So you might take up painting. You might read a book about something about which you know nothing. You just got to challenge the brain. It needs to be used.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
In the book, Ita, I mean, you are larger than life, but you talk about detours and you talk about planning ahead. For example, in your case, you are so switched on and then all of a sudden something happened and you, I think it's called frozen gate disorder that you've, of course, keeps your limited mobility, should I say. I love the approach around that about we should always plan ahead because you just never know. Like your brother, for example, who passed away from bowel cancer, what was he, 61 or 62? It's like...
He was 62.
62, and it's like what we don't want to go too much into tomorrow, but I love the word plan. In your case,
you do need a plan when you're growing older. I mean, we plan for everything. We plan for getting married. We plan for having children. We plan our new home. We plan overseas travel. You name it, we plan it. But we don't plan for older age, and many Australians over 65 don't even have a financial plan in place. They have no idea how much money they're going to need if they live 20 or 30 years after they turn 65. And the odds are that they will, if they're in good health. I mean, we're all living longer. So if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a what if, what if your partner dies? What if you get a terminal illness? What if you lose your mobility? What if you can't drive anymore? All of these things, you can't assume that it's something that happens to someone over there. It can happen to you, and that's what you've got to plan for. So that getting older doesn't shock you. You just need to have a plan.
Yeah, very good
What will I
advice,
do?
Ita.
I only get shocked when I sometimes look in the mirror and go, oh, it's early in the morning. Oh, I must be old because I forget that I forget my age. I'm a Capricorn.
I remember I got a text from Di, and she was at the gym, and then she said, "Oh no," she said, I found I've got wrinkles in my arms."
And I went, "Am I old?" And you're, "Of course,
and I
you're
said,
bloody not."
"Can't they get Botox for the arms?"
But, it's like I'm not in denial.
Just don't put your glasses on, then you can't see them.
That's a good one.
And you know what I love too, Ida, and you know what, you're the queen
all an
of
attitude.
it. And the name of your book is Unapologetically Ita. But
say that again.
Unapologetically Ita. But you
10
also
out of 10.
10 out of 10. But you also tell, especially women, stop apologising.
I do it.
Can you tell us more? Give us our listeners why.
Because we're always saying sorry. My daughter used to say sorry, and I used to say to her, "What have you done? What are you sorry about?" She doesn't say it anymore because I've drummed it out of her. But, an older person can do that to younger girls. You just need to stop apologising. We haven't done anything over which we need to apologise. We do the best. We do the best when we're mothers. We do the best when we're in a relationship. We do the best at in our jobs. We do the best to our friends. Nothing to say sorry about. Remove the word. Don't say sorry.
I say it about 4 times a day. I'm walking close. I'm sorry, or I'm
not anymore.
I don't know. I do it all the time.
From now, it's going to be a mindset Ita change.
It's true.
And what did you think, Ita, of the song Cold Chisels One, Ita?
Oh, I love it. I love it. And my children thought it was the best thing I ever did, and I had nothing to do with it.
Oh.
They used to watch me present. They used to watch me present the Australian Women's Weekly commercials every week, and that's what inspired Don Woods, a member of the band, to write the song. I was always amazed that just watching me present the weekly's commercials inspired them to have this song. But it still gets a lot of national playtime even today.
It's iconic, like you are.
And while we're on that, what was your thoughts when they made a Barbie doll? They made an Ita. Mattel made an Ita doll. How did you feel about that?
The whole family wanted one, but there's only one, and I've got it. I'm a Barbie. I'm a Barbie.
Oh. And how's it being a grandma? Do you love that?
Lovely. Yes, I do. It's lovely, and they're always amazing me with what they're doing, and they're all different. But they're all very lovable. I love them.
They're lucky to have you as well.
5, isn't there? Five grandkids?
Yes, 5. 2 boys and 3 girls.
Beautiful.
Oh,
what's ahead for Ita? I mean, you're only 83, for God's sake, get over that. What's ahead for Ita?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes you've just got to sit back and let life lead you somewhere. I've been very busy since I left the ABC because I wrote the book, and now I'm on the campaign, the publicity campaign. Yes. And so when I get to the end of this year, I think I might have a few months off, and then I'll consider my options. I'm still working.
It is a great book. It truly is. And just with that too, we always talk about the importance of friendship and connection. What do you feel about that? Or is there any advice you could give to our listeners to, as we all age, to staying connected, friends? What's some of the things you've learnt, or you could give advice?
I think as we get older, we sometimes lose our friends, and it's very difficult to make new friends when you're older. You don't know where to go. I always say go to a library, because apart from getting a good book, there's always something happening in a library. There might be somebody speaking, there's people around that you'd like to meet, and I do find the library is a great solution if you're feeling a bit lonely and you want to make new friends. It's a good place to start.
Too, which
I used
is
to
lovely.
get into trouble,
I love
Ita,
that.
all the time in a library because I was always talking.
Well, look, you are so positive, and you really, as I sort of said, you are absolutely. I love your attitude. And we want to sort of thank you for everything that you've done, all the groundbreaking thing. You are certainly, like our poster girl. And, we've got some of our signature questions for you, Ita. Did you want to shoot?
This one I'm dying to hear. If you had the opportunity of meeting someone over the back fence, either passed on or living, who would that be and why?
Well, it would have to be my grandchildren because I just love them so much and I want to see how they're growing up and I don't want to miss a moment of it. I'm just pondering, what are they all going to do? And they're so entertaining that I would never have a dull moment over my back fence. And I'd like them to be a bit closer. You see,
Where are they? Where are they?
Well, 3 live in Canberra and the other 2 are in Sydney.
Oh, God.
But when you're 16 and 17 and you're girls, I mean, as the 2 in Sydney are, there's a lot of social activity going on.
I bet you they must love hearing your stories, Ita.
Yeah.
Wouldn't they? It's funny, we had Ben Fordham on recently and he was saying his mother lives next door to his other brother, his son, and she's actually got a hole in her back fence. So the grandkids, they go between.
The old back fence.
You've got to make it easy.
Yeah. Now, Ita, if you could turn the clock back now, to 20-year-old Ita giving yourself some advice, what would you say to Ita now?
The same thing that I've always said, don't give up, never give up. And you're entitled to be here, make the most of this life because we are only here once. I'd say the same thing and I wouldn't change a thing of what I've done.
Oh, you make me cry.
It's beautiful.
That is absolutely
it's
beautiful. Make the most. And what makes you happy?
Last one, yeah.
A beautiful day. When you wake up and you go out onto the balcony and the sun is shining and the air smells fresh and the birds are starting to sing, I think that's a lovely way to start the day. I used to love walking the dog in the early parts of the morning, but I can't do that anymore. So I just do it on my own balcony, and I look at the trees, I look at the flowers, and I think you wouldn't be dead for quids. The world is really lovely.
That sounds like gratitude. Love that.
Gratitude.
Beautiful way to
We're
finish.
grateful that you came on, Ita, and we highly recommend this book to everybody. We'll have the links in our show notes. It's absolutely fantastic. So, everybody, thank you for listening. Don't forget to rate and review. You can watch this on YouTube. So please subscribe. See Ita Buttrose. But look how beautiful she is. The red lipstick,
we were talking
the
off air,
nails.
her lipsticks.
So,
I mean, that has been, is it not
signature.
been your signature forever?
Glamorous.
Your nails and lips.
Smart, strong, kind. We couldn't
it.
say enough things a bit about you. So, well, I don't know, Ita, if you know, but we do like to get ratings because it helps our community grow. It helps our podcast growing. And we're into our 3rd year, and if you're proud of us, we're really growing. But Di's got her own rating system, and now we've got Ita Buttrose on today. Now, out of stars, it's out of 5 stars. What would you give Ita?
I'd have to honestly say for Ita, because of, I'd have to say every year of her life has been so profound and so influential. I'd have to say 83 out of 5. Every year that you've been alive, you've achieved something amazing.
Yeah, so
we adore you.
We
really
absolutely
do.
adore you. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back in your ears next week.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.